Approached me about speaking for this series, I was so excited. And one of the reasons why I was so excited was, I mean, number one, first, that she was bringing this series to our city, to Salt Lake City, because I had heard about it. A couple of years previous, so with Craft Lake City, I'm going to kind of talk just briefly about some of my work here in the community with my businesses, but I run a nonprofit called Craft Lake City, and through that partnership, we've actually been working with Tattly, which is a company that Tina Ralph Eisberg from Creative Mornings started as well. It's a temporary tattoo company. So one of our artisans through Craft Lake moved to New York City and moved to Brooklyn and started working for her. Her name was Nicolette Miller, and some of you guys may know her. So when we went out there, I went out there for some meetings and to kind of just talk about working with them. She invited me to one of the Creative Mornings, and I was so bummed because it actually was the day that I was flying out, so I had to miss it. So that's when I first found out about Creative Mornings. So when it was coming to Salt Lake, I was just really excited to be here. So today we're going to be talking about action, and when I was prepping for this, I decided to kind of be inspired by what Amy has sort of done here. And one of the things that she does with this chapter is you guys all received this coaster and kind of a creative pen as a tool for you to just write down what you're inspired by, or just do some doodling if we bore you. And so I love these little journals, these little books. I have a lot of them. Sometimes I'll reserve a specific book for a project. I actually have one that I use each year for the DIY festival that we produce with Craft Lake City. I have a separate Slug magazine one and a separate just day-to-day Craft Lake one, and then I have separate ones for creative projects. And sometimes there's only a couple pages in them that are full, and sometimes they're just every page is maxed out. So I pulled up just a little thin little notebook that I had received in some sponsor bag at an event, and kind of just doodled out and wrote out my speech. So action. So here we go. So this is actually a portrait of me. I was trying to draw myself, and my boyfriend came in the room, and he's an incredible artist. His name is Fletcher Booth, and somehow I coaxed him for the very first time to draw a quick portrait of me. So, so this is kind of fun. This is one of the hashtags I like to use, SLC rules, if you guys are doing any social media. Of course, there's my handles, @TheRealAngela, @Slug Magazine, @Craft Lake City, and then we've got the Creative Morning ones. This is the Twitter one, @SaltLake_CM. with hashtag Creative Mornings. There's also, I think Instagram is @SaltLakeCity_CM. So if you guys participating at all in social media today. So this is kind of a doodle about, I just want to briefly talk a little bit about who I am, some of the stuff that I've done here locally. So this is just a doodle about Slug Magazine. I've got here kind of the very first issue that I produced when I took over the magazine 15 years ago. Whoa, this month it's 15 years that I've been running the magazine. So thank you. I never thought I would last 5, and here we are 15 years later. So I know it's kind of hard to see, but there's this little doodle of this issue of Kilby Court. So Kilby Court had kind of just opened, so I put them on the cover. We were this big tabloid, awkward style. At the time, we could only afford to do spot color, which I'm sure many of you guys remember that, where it's just black and white with only one Pantone color. It was such a pain. And now we're at issue number, and that was issue number 140. Now we're at issue number 320. And we're 4-color, electro bright, 4-color on every page. There's some magazines at the front if you want to see what we look like. And we're still working with local artists. Back then we worked with this incredible artist for that cover called Richard Visick. He now lives in Portland, and he actually was working for Chihuly, like the glass artist, for a number of years. Kind of cool. And then this month we've got artist Candace Jean on the cover. So another thing that I've done is I'm the founder of slugmag.com. So something that's really, really unique about myself and my stories, when I took over the print publication, I'm the 3rd editor and publisher. It's been around for 27 years, and when I took it over in 2000, you know, kind of like the startup culture was just barely booming. The .coms were just kind of happening. And we literally just had slugmag.com with like links on it to record labels. There was no content, no programming. So over the past 15 years, I've really been working on getting past content up as well as new exclusive content, and you know, really kind of taking this print publication into the digital age. Another thing that I've done is events. So I'm just going to kind of do some other doodles here. Didn't quite finish the project, but that's kind of what notebooks are all about, right? You start things and you got to move on to the next page. So events. So some events that I've pioneered here are Slug Localized, which is our local music series. The Slug Games, which is our amateur ski and snowboarding series. The Slug Cat, which is an urban cycling alley cat race, and then the Slug Summer of Death skateboarding series. Some other stuff that I've done, started a podcast. I love podcasts, and so I thought, hey, this is another opportunity for us to create local content. And specifically, since we're monthly, in the print, we can't always fit everything that we want to there. We can't always fit everything that we want on the website. And so, or things just aren't really, you know, conversations are so dynamic and it's kind of back and forth. And sometimes when we do an interview with someone, it's hard to translate that into words. And so we started a podcast. Also, we started some local band compilations. Over the years, we've done 5 local band compilations, 2 records, 3 CD compilations. That series is called Death by Assault. Again, kind of our testament to really empowering the local creative music community to produce really great music. And then started a second business, a 501c3 nonprofit called Craft Lake City. We just finished up our 7th year, our 7th annual DIY or Do-It-Yourself festival that happened in the Galvin Center. So that's something too that I'm really passionate about. So kind of leading into action, today's topic. So I grew up here locally, born and raised in Utah, and one thing that really helped me through my teenage years was getting involved with the hardcore punk and goth scene here. Music has always been a really, really important part of my life. In fact, did anybody go to any of the shows last night? There was the St. Vincent show. Anybody there? Was there? Yeah, super fun. There's also the Motorhead show, which I didn't go to that because I actually remembered that I saw them play like 5 years ago. So I missed that show, but let's not St. Vincent. So anyway, there's a punk hardcore band called DOA, and they're from Vancouver. And this is kind of a quote that really stuck with me when I was in my teenage years, and it's that the quote is talk minus action equals 0. And that's kind of a mantra that I've used throughout my business, and I quote it to my staff all the time. And to me, it's really, really important, right? Let's say that again, talk minus action equals 0. And so when I was thinking about action, I decided I want to put my own spin on this quote that I've been saying for years. And one thing that I wanted to do was I wanted to take this quote and make it more of a positive quote. Instead of talking about what we don't want to do, right, which is the lack of action, and just talk about things and never incorporate that action, so it's just a 0, I wanted to change that about movement and about how can we invoke change. So I came up with talk plus action equals change. And then that led into this sort of process chart and this flow chart about, okay, so then with change, if we're talking, then adding the action element and the change, what happens next? And so we're gonna kind of go over this really quickly and we'll break it down. So what happens is then movement happens. Then we've got momentum, then we've got team, leadership, and then creation. And ultimately, that's what I want to do. I want to create. I want to help create a city that I want to live in. I want to create culture. I want to create unique and exciting events. And you know, I've kind of done that through some of my businesses, but I want to keep doing that. And I want to inspire others to join me, right? So let's break down this flow chart. So with talk, so we've got kind of like the 2 different ways that you can go with this talk. We've got the DOA quote on the right, which is talk minus action equals 0. And that kind of talk to me is sort of like this sort of negative talk, right? Where we're just name dropping. We're just kind of like talking about what we could do or what other people do. And it can sort of lead to lack of trust, meaning that we're just talking about things, but we're never doing anything, right? So then there's kind of the talk in the new quote that I made up, talk plus action equals change. And that talk incorporates dreaming, of playing, of envisioning, of inspiring. So this is the type of talk that is going to lead to collaboration and that really is going to empower us to take the next step, which is action, right? So when we take that talk and that thought, combine it with action, and action, you know, it can just be with, it can start with getting off the couch, right? Like it can be a small action. Just making that choice of, you know, instead of being comfortable and watching that other Netflix episode, I'm gonna pick up this book and I'm going to kind of just sit and think. I'm gonna write down some thoughts. I'm gonna take an action so I can move forward in a new way, right? Action is also saying yes. When Amy asked me to speak, I was really kind of tempted to say no, right? but that's not what I'm about. That's not what I want to do. I want to keep perpetuating forward. I want to create, and so it's saying yes sometimes, right? Even if you have no idea what you're going to do. And it's making a commitment. It's living up to your word, which in this day and age, it's so easy to text somebody and say, I'm bowing out, I quit, no thanks, don't sign me up. Let's be impeccable with our word. Let's make a commitment. Let's do that through action, right? And there's another quote I like to use, and it's a Star Wars quote. It's a quote by Yoda. And the quote is, do or do not, there is no try, right? And, you know, I think we say that, and we hear that a lot of like, okay, I'm gonna try and make it. But no, you either do or you do not. You don't try. And that's how we create action, right? Making that commitment. It's either a yes or a no. Okay, so then we've got this talk plus action equals change, right? So kind of moving back to my flow chart, to my process chart. So change. So a lot of times I think what happens is we get to the action and we see that we're going to create this change, and we like tense up, or we freak out, or we decide that we want to go backwards. Like, okay, I'm going to get back on the couch. This is hard. Because what happens with change, you know, change can be really positive, but it's this disruption. And it creates this awkward time that's uncomfortable. There can be feelings of loss. There can be discomfort. It can bring up stuff from the past, right? Like negative things from the past, not always positive things from the past. But the other thing that change does is it gives us an opportunity to face our fears. To our fears of the unknown, of the unfamiliar, and for us to confront them head on and say, I'm going to take action towards this fear. I'm going to make some changes, and I'm going to move forward. So back to the flow chart. Talk plus action equals change. Then that moving forward motion is movement, right? So with this movement again is just about doing something. It's about falling down. It's about there's a woman that I work with at Craft Lake City, and she's actually here today, Courtney Blair, and she's an incredible designer. And a few weeks ago, she published this really cool image of a new tattoo that she got. And the tattoo says, it's beautiful, like floral piece on her arm, and it says, fail, learn, grow. And I just love that. I think it's so important to remember that, right? That part of moving is falling down, right? It's failing. And the only way that we can actually learn and grow is if we take that movement and fall on our face and then get back up again. It's also about pivoting, right? Starting a plan, moving forward, and realizing that we've got to go the other direction because the direction that we thought we were going isn't the correct direction, right? So taking that action to pivot. And then momentum. So momentum is kind of like movement, but the thing about momentum is when you pivot and you actually realize that there's a desired place that you want to go, and then you're kind of building on that. And then momentum, once you've got that, you've got this like magnetic power and this law of attraction where other people are seeing that like the ball is rolling. And they're seeing that the car is moving and they want to jump on. They want to be part of this momentum. And then with that attraction and with that velocity, you can move smarter and faster. And that leads to, actually, a team. That leads to team. So when you start getting this momentum and people want to be part of what you're doing, you get this team together. And sometimes this forms organically. And this team helps you share your success, helps you grow, experience loss together. And it also takes the entire group and elevates everyone, right? And out of that elevation and out of that group comes leadership. Because with a strong team, there always has to be a leader. And that leader learns to teach and empower. They develop humility. Humility is a really, really, really great quality of a leader. And you know, then from there, we're almost at kind of the end of my flow chart, which the talk plus action equals change, movement, momentum, team, leadership, and the end result for me is creation, is creating community, creating the city that I want to live in, right? At one time in my life, I really wanted to move to New York City. I really wanted to move to San Francisco. And then I decided there's more opportunity here in our state for us to take action and make this city, again, the city that we want to be part of. So let's invest in Salt Lake City or Utah, Provo. There's a really cool event happening next week. People are talking about StartFest. Let's invest in our community and take action. The other fun thing I wanted to bring up just before we close is about this flow chart. It can also work in reverse. So as I was kind of playing around with this, but you can start as a creator. You can become a leader, acquire a team, get that momentum, do the movement, invoke change, get the action going, and then talk about it, right? So thank you so much, you guys, for the opportunity to share with you my thoughts about action and my fun little book. I hope you guys also did some doodles and wrote some thoughts of your own.